Hello and welcome everyone to the Quintas Solar Farm webinar. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm Katrina Coburn. I'm one of the directors at Energise South Downs. So the plan for this evening, we're just going to share a short presentation. If you'd like to put any questions in the chat, and then we'll cover those when we get to the end. Okay, so this is a picture of all the partners that are involved with the Quintas Solar Farm at the site. So we have Quintas Cleantech, Energise South Downs, Energy Alton, and Community Energy South. So what is shared ownership all about? Shared ownership of renewable energy projects in the UK allows communities and commercial businesses to jointly own and benefit from the renewable energy developments. These can include wind and solar farms. So this is quite new in England in the sector. In Scotland, the Scottish Government has been encouraging this shared ownership for many years, particularly for wind farms. But this is one of the first in England, which has been developed by Quintas Cleantech. So it's one of the first large-scale solar farms to be shared with communities. And Quintas Cleantech are developing the project and plan to invite the local community to invest in and own up to 10% of the solar farm. So a little bit about the partners. So I'm Katrina, one of the directors at Energise South Downs. We're based in Petersfield in Hampshire, so about 15 minutes drive from the site in East Farringdon. We've been doing lots of outreach around renewables and how renewables can meet local energy needs. And I'll just let Quintas Cleantech introduce themselves.
Thanks, Katrina. I'm Shireen Azzi. I head up the UK development team here at Quintas Cleantech. We're a solar farm developer developing all across the United Kingdom. We're developing a handful of sites and we want to do so in a quality way with a long-term view of those projects. So we're taking a very community-friendly approach with our development. We come from an asset management background. Our sister company, Quintas Energy, is a solar farm asset manager, has been doing so since 2008. We manage over 200 solar farms across the UK. So we're bringing that long-term asset management perspective to the development work that we do.
Great, thank you. And if Energy Alton want to introduce themselves?
Yeah, yes. Good evening, Energy Alton. We are not for profit, and we're actually award-winning community now charity, providing energy and environmental advice and information to householders and businesses within the local community. We've been around since 2010. We've got 20 plus volunteers, and we will be working with the rest of the partners, including Energise South Downs, to make sure that the community investment is delivered within the solar farm.
Lovely, thank you. And Community Energy South?
Yes, hello. So Community Energy South, what we're all about is helping the community energy sector to thrive and to grow. So essentially we're capacity builders and we support over 50 groups, mainly in the southeast and east of England and also in the Midlands, with training, mentoring, funding and incubation. And the idea is that we support groups to a point where they become financially sustainable.
Lovely, thank you. So the community benefits of the Quintas Solar Farm. The Community Benefit Fund will be administered by the local community, and it will be funded in two ways. So there's a direct contribution from the project annually, and that's for the lifetime of the project. but there's also a share of the surplus project revenues, and that is arising from the stake in the solar farm. So community people in the community can invest and own up to 10% of the project. There'll also be a new permissive path, footpath, that runs alongside the development. And as a result of projects like Cakestream, SSEN, the local network operator, will be moving existing pylons underground. So it'll actually improve the current visual landscape. We also feel that it's building on the local environmental legacy. So the land for on the site is part of the Selborne Partnership, and that is a collaboration initiative that continues Gilbert White's legacy by fostering projects that balance human needs with ecological integrity. And it's about restoring degraded land, encouraging species diversity, promoting carbon sequestration. And the plan is for the Cakestream solar farm to also leave a lasting legacy for nature. And part of the project to encourage that to happen will be a substantial biodiversity net gain, and the hope of 40% of net gain is planned. And that's much more than the mandatory minimum of 10%. So local people will continue to have access to the site through existing footpaths, but also, as I mentioned, the new permissive footpath will be created as well. And with new screening and increased biodiversity planting, the site will blend into the landscape from the longer distance views. And I'm just going to hand over to Quintas to talk about the site location.
Evening, Anita. My name is Nilufa Yasmin. I am Senior Planning Associate at Quintas Cleantech. Now, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the proposal, the chosen location, and so what is Cakestream Solar Farm? It really is a groundbreaking project developed by Quintas Cleantech together with the local community energy groups based in East Hampshire. They include Energy South Downs and Energy Alton. We're all supported by Community Energy South. They have recently rebranded as Community Energy Pathway. Now, the proposal is for a 44 megawatt solar farm and associated co-located battery energy storage system. Now, this has sufficient capacity to generate clean power for the equivalent of approximately 15,000 homes for 35 years. And now, due to the way we are approaching this development, it's meant that the local community of East Hants will be able to own part of the project. They can contribute to decisions about the project and they can benefit directly from it. The site itself comprises an area of 65 hectares and it's located to the north and south of Gaston Lane, east of Upper Farringdon. Now, the site does not include any high-grade agricultural land. East Hampshire's 2018 low carbon study identified the area where the site is as the only one in the district that's suitable for large-scale solar. Now, multiple other factors went into siting the project in this location. So Hampshire itself is ideal for solar projects such as this one, as it receives relatively high levels of sunlight. So that kind of determined the site location. The site is obviously also relatively flat and it benefits from really good existing landscape screening. It can blend into existing solar projects, and also another reason why we picked this location was because of grid connection. We were able to connect, the point of connection is local, and for us economically as well, that means it will be viable for us. And from a technical side, as mentioned by Kat earlier, the shared ownership model is widely used for like wind farms in Scotland, but this will be the first solar farm of this scale that is implementing this shared ownership model in England. So it really makes it a highly innovative and exciting project. Kat, can we go on to the next slide? The next one. Yeah. So site layout, so the numerous factors were taken into consideration when we determined the site layout, and a lot of things factored into the evolution. For example, we considered noise not only during operation, but during construction. So solar farms, you may or may not be aware that some of the inverters, they can make some form of noise, but it varies according to how much electricity the solar farm is generating at the time. So what we have done is undertaken a expert noise survey to assess the level of noise generated and to allow us to design the site in a way to make sure we do not impact any surrounding properties. So what we have done is proposed acoustic fencing. They will be built around the inverter battery stations, and that's been recommended by our noise consultants. We are producing a noise impact assessment, and that will be reviewed by the council's environmental health officer. Now, noise during construction. During construction, some vehicles would pass by on Gaston Lane to bring materials to the site. We have designed our construction traffic plan in such a way to ensure that traffic is minimal, so very minimal disruption. We propose doing this by sending some of the vehicles along Hall Lane to the south of the site. We anticipate that traffic will be split by 50%, 50-50 between the two roads. So 50% towards Gaston Lane, 50% through Hall Lane. And our construction traffic plan will also be assessed by the council. We also took into account visibility. That was very important for us. And we designed the site in such a way that it really is well screened from key locations. We've done this by infilling existing hedges and undertaking new planting. And so every effort really has been made and will be continued to be made to mitigate any visual impact. And we're updating our landscape mitigation plan to reflect all recent comments we received from the public consultation that took place on the 13th of February, just a couple of weeks ago. We also took into consideration impact on the local area. Now, as a company, our roots are in managing operational solar farms, as mentioned previously earlier by Flores, that we manage over 200 solar farms across the UK, and we've done so for more than 15 years. So from our experience, we know that whilst it's normal that local residents and other stakeholders may have some queries about solar farm in the area, but there are actually multiple benefits that solar farms brings to an area. Some of the benefits are particularly notable. In the case of Caker Stream, our farming activity, they will cease, and that will allow the soil to regenerate, and then that would also allow in turn for biodiversity to really flourish. So any noise, dust, disruption from tractors and other things and other farming vehicles, that will come to a stop. And also sheep, as mentioned earlier, they are able to continue to graze the grass within the site, meaning that there will be no need for manual grass cutting. What that allows is the operation and maintenance activities related to our proposed solar farm to be kept to an absolute minimum. Our landscape and ecology management plan will also create a biodiversity net gain of approximately 40%, and this is well above the required 10%. This will be achieved through extensive planting of wildflower meadows, trees and hedges. Additional ecological benefits will be delivered, such as bird boxes throughout the site. We're also creating a new permissive footpath that will really enhance walking routes across the site, and that will really enhance everyone's walking experience. We will also encourage, through this proposal going forward, what we will do is encourage schools to visit so that we can educate children at local schools about green energy and how important that is. So really, all in all, to summarize, we really believe that a solar farm is going to have a positive impact on the local area, and not to mention the overarching need for clean energy to combat the climate crisis. That's aligned with also the government's ambition to achieve a much cleaner UK. And that summarizes that slide.
Great, thank you. We also feel that the solar farm is about building community resilience. Solar is a cornerstone of the UK's drive for energy security and lower energy bills. By harnessing a free and an abundant local energy source, Large-scale solar farms can reduce our reliance on imported fossil fuels. It mitigates the risks of global price volatility and supply chain disruptions, particularly from hostile regimes. It also helps with national targets. So generating energy from fossil fuels is the biggest contributor to climate change, both globally and in the UK. The UK government has these targets to fully decarbonise our energy supplies by 2030. And although we are making good progress, so half of the UK electricity generation was zero carbon in 2024, we know that there's still much work to do. Here in Hampshire, Hampshire County Council also has a target to become carbon neutral by 2050. In Hampshire County Council's climate change strategy for 2020 to 2025, it emphasises the need to replace the high carbon energy sources with the low carbon alternatives. However, in Hampshire, we're only using 5% renewable energy currently, so we still do have a long way to go. We also want to ensure that the renewable energy sources that plug this gap are community owned, and there's research to show that we can deliver up to 8 times the benefits through community owned solar. So how might you get involved? So locally, we've got the 2 community energy groups, Energise South Downs and Energy Alton, who work very closely together. Come and join us, find out what we do in the community. You might want to consider investing in the 10% community owned part of the solar farm. And if you like this project, please tell other people about the project. We feel that it's a very innovative project. We want to move away from fossil fuels and create that renewable energy locally. So tell others about it. And if you want to know more about the local groups, please come and volunteer. So just to finish the presentation, here's a timeline of the events. So we're having the public consultation now, with the plan to move to planning application being submitted in April 2025. The council will then run a consultation between April and May, with the planning committee meeting in September of this year. We hope that there will be a community share offer in 2027. So we'll be going out for community investment at that point. And then if all goes to plan and planning is granted, the construction will take place in 2028. Okay, so now over to you for any questions. So I'll stop sharing. And yeah. So there's one question about degraded land. It says, what do you mean by degraded land?
Yeah, I can add to that. So hi Anita, I'm Dan Elvin, Senior Planning Manager at Quintas Cleantech. So I think the question probably relates to, I'm guessing what you want to understand is why would the soils and the land be enhanced as a result of the proposal? Okay, so obviously the first thing is that the land will be rested. It won't be farmed for the life of the scheme, potentially 40 years. So the land will naturally regenerate, the soils will regenerate, and the quality will improve, the nutrients within the soils. That's the first point to mention. The second point is, I think I was touched on earlier in terms of biodiversity net gain, so any ecological enhancements and habitat enhancements across the site. There is a national requirement for 10% biodiversity net gain. We're actually proposing 40%. So that will be achieved through wildflower meadow planting. We are looking to alter the grassland mix across the site through seeding. There will be further ecological enhancements such as bat and bird boxes across the site. so yeah, a variety of ecological enhancements. But yeah, I hope that answers your question. Yeah. Okay, great. Do you have any further questions, Anita? Or are you?
Not really. I suppose I'm just concerned about the impact on wildlife in general, and also, you know, you mentioned about a footpath and how that's going to enhance it. But as far as I can see, it's going to be a footpath that just goes alongside the solar panels, and I can't see how that can be particularly, you know, enhancing. Sorry.
Okay. No, that's fine. Any feedback is welcome. So in terms of the so there's obviously the existing public right of way that runs east to west across the centre of the site. So that will remain unaffected. That will just, even during construction, that will stay as is. It will be open, it will be usable. What we are proposing, following feedback from the community, is a permissive path along the northwestern edge. So that will run from Gaston Lane to the north, head down to the fishing pond, loop around the pond, and then back up to the main road. So we are aware that route is utilised at the minute by some members of the community, but what we're looking to do is formalise that path, so it will be a proper, you know, usable permissive path. Did you have another question in there? Sorry, was there two parts to that?
No, that was it really. Yes.
Okay. So yeah, I think as well, what we're proposing to do through the landscape mitigation strategy is plant hedging and vegetation alongside the path that runs through the middle of the site. So we think that will enhance the walking experience through the area. I don't know whether you have any further questions about any other matters, or are you happy?
Not really. I mean, the only other thing is that at the moment, Gaston Lane is completely impassable. I mean, I know we're talking sort of 2-3 years ahead, but I mean, it's been like that for a year now. And
I think so, that there's been a lot of frustration from the community there. A few people mentioned that at the event a couple of weeks ago. I think those works, that they're out of our control. They're sort of nothing to do with us. But what I will say is we are engaging with the county council highways team over those bridge improvements, just to make sure that once they've been done, they won't then have to be done again to facilitate our our traffic. But yeah, those works are, at this stage, they're sort of nothing to do with us. I think it's bridge improvement works that would happen in any case. And yeah, we will be submitting a construction traffic management plan with the planning application. So that will set out the proposed routing of any traffic, any measures we can implement to, you know, reduce as far as possible any environmental impact, and that will be reviewed by the council as part of the application documents. But yeah, just to kind of fill a bit of time, I suppose. But in terms of the traffic, the intention is, I think Nalifa touched on this earlier. The traffic will come in from Selborne Road to the east. Roughly 50% of the traffic will travel along Gaston Lane to the northern part of the site, and then roughly 50% will then travel along Hall Lane to the southern part of the site. And the intention is, once the for example, once the materials have been dropped off on site, the traffic would then go back the same way back towards Selborne Road. So there'd be no traffic passing through Upper Farringdon to the west.
Okay.
And it's typically the case the council would insist on a road survey prior to and following completion of construction. So usually there's a requirement for a photographic survey. So any in the event that there might be any damage to the road, it's a possibility, then that would be put right post construction. So yeah, the idea is the road wouldn't be left in any worse state than it is at the minute. If anything, it'd be better. Yeah, hopefully that's answered those points.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Hi, could I ask a question, please?
Yes, please do.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I heard earlier in the presentation about inverters. So my question was, could you just explain what inverters are, or could one of the people who was presenting explain what inverters are?
Yeah.
That would be good. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Sorry, Chris, just struggling a bit with my voice, but yeah, thanks for your question. So I'm actually have sort of a legal training as background rather than technical. However, I've been working with Quintas for 10 years now, so I've got a bit of an understanding around how solar farms work. So I'll attempt to answer that question despite not being an engineer. But inverters basically convert the energy. So the energy that is generated by solar panels is DC, direct current, and the inverters will change it into AC, which is the form of energy that we can use at home. And I hope after 10 years at Quintas I've got that correct, but that is pretty much what they do. And they are the component that is potentially noisy. It very much depends on how much generation is happening in a particular moment. But I've walked around solar farms, and you do hear it when you're very close to them, literally on site, but not when you're outside the site. And with the acoustic fencing, we understand that all the surrounding properties will be protected from any noise from those inverters.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I think you asked in the did you want to know where the inverters were on the current design?
No, I
okay with that?
I just wanted to
Okay,
understand what they
fine.
were. That was
what
all.
they are.
Thank
Oh,
you.
fine. Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. There's a question from Sue, and it's about the during construction, the traffic on a previous solar farm in Gaston Lane was constructed, and it arrived via the new road, and traffic left via Selborne Road. Is the plans for the construction traffic? I don't know who wants to answer that.
Yeah, sure, I can answer that one, Kat. Yeah, so I'm Dan Elvin, Senior Planning Manager at Quintas Cleantech. So in terms of the traffic management plan, so as Nilufer noted earlier, the intention is to split traffic across Gaston Lane and Hall Lane. So yeah, we understand the existing solar farm had a one-way system in operation along Gaston Lane, whereby traffic approached from the east and then travelled west along Gaston Lane and then up through the fields to the northwest. The intention here is to have a two-way system in operation on Gaston Lane. And that is also the case for traffic along Hall Lane to the south. So effectively we'd be sort of splitting and halving the traffic 50-50 across both Gaston Lane and Hall Lane.
Great, thank you. There's a question from Robin. How many of your 200 solar farms have sheep grazing on the land?
Do you want to take that one, Shireen?
I'll take that one. Yeah. So of the solar farms that we manage, we encourage we encourage sheep grazing on all of those where we can. Some would have been constructed so that they are sheep proof, because if you don't construct them correctly, then sheep have a tendency to chew through the cables, for example. So we will construct all of the solar farms that we are developing in a way that they are sheep proof. And yeah, on the solar farms that we manage, I can't give you an exact number, but I can tell you, when I worked in the legal department and the asset management team, wherever a landowner or a nearby farmer wanted to graze their sheep on site, then we always encouraged that and facilitated that. So we would always insist on having a grazing license in place to make sure that the welfare of the sheep is properly taken care of. But we will always encourage sheep grazing. And in fact, on this site, there currently are sheep grazing. So we're confident that we'll be able to have sheep grazing on this particular project.
Thank you. And just going back to one of the slides talked about the SSEN improving or taking away some of the pylons and doing the cabling underline. And Sue just wanted confirmation that there won't be any additional pylons as a result of the project?
Yeah, I can confirm that. So our connection is going to run from the top part of one of the fields that's north of Gaston Lane. That will be an undergrounded cable going from there about 2 or 3 kilometers to the north east. The part of the overhead line that currently runs there will be completely undergrounded as well. Our project will not need any new pylons, and it will be connecting underground via that to be undergrounded pylon.
Great, thank you. There's a nice question about how can one get involved? Would love to hear from you as a community energy groups. Please get in touch about some of the other initiatives we're running. We're doing some rooftop solar projects as well. But it would be great with regards to this solar farm to talk about it to other people. I feel like it is a very positive initiative for our community and the locally run community energy groups, the increased biodiversity behind it, the community benefit fund. So yeah, please tell people about it, and please look out for an investment in the future. I hope that answers that question. And just following up, Sue, I may have not asked the question very well, but is it talking about construction traffic? Will it go through the village, splitting 50-50 to reach the development?
Yeah, I can pick that one up again, Kat. So apologies if my previous answer wasn't that clear. So yeah, the intention is all construction traffic will approach the site from Selborne Road to the east. So there'll be no construction traffic travelling through Upper Farringdon, just to make that clear. So all traffic will travel from Selborne Road to the east. It will then either travel along Gaston Lane or along Hall Lane to the south, and then it will go back the same way back to Selborne Road. I think the other benefit associated with having 2 access points, one to the north and one to the south, is we don't have to take any traffic across the public right-of-way that runs through the centre of the site, east to west. So the existing public right-of-way would remain unaffected. So the traffic would either approach from the north if it's associated with the parcels to the north of the public right-of-way, or it will approach from the south along Hall Lane if the traffic is involved in the construction aspects to the south of the public right-of-way. But yeah, no traffic will pass through the village.
Great, thank you. I hope that answers your question, Sue. There's a question about how will those who can't afford to invest and live in Farringdon benefit financially? So we talked about a couple of funding streams from a community benefit point of view. There'll be funding per kilowatt installed over the whole term of the project, which will go into community benefit fund that will be managed by Energise South Downs and Energy Alton, but there'll also be a fund. So if you invest, you do get a return on your investment, but any surplus profit will also go back into that community fund, which will be managed by the local groups, and other community groups can apply for that fund, or we might use it to help those that do have issues around fuel poverty, or there might be some local initiatives around energy efficiency work, or smaller generation projects. So we do hope to use that community benefit fund to good effect and to reach everyone, not just those that can afford to invest. Is there any other questions? And just a question about from Grace, please could you explain on the time, is it the development time? That's
a reference to how long we expect the solar farm to be operational for. So we will be limited in the amount of time that we can be operational by different factors. We will have a lease agreement on the land. The planning permission will also come with a condition around how long we can be operational for. But probably the most important one is how long can the solar farm actually go on for. So for the solar farms that we manage at the moment within Quintas Energy, I think the assumption was when they were first built that solar farms can exist for around 25 years. And a lot of the planning permissions have a 25-year condition associated with them. And actually what we found over time is that solar farms do a lot better than was initially expected. And so for those older solar farms, a lot of our clients actually ask us, is it possible to actually extend the planning permission? And where possible, we would go to the councils and ask them to do so. So with new developments, we're making an assumption that they will actually be able to operate for a lot longer, probably 35 to 40 years. Something like that is the current expectation. However, they will be limited under the planning permission. The local planning authority will decide, if the number of years we've applied for is acceptable or not. But we will also be limited by a further condition in the planning permission that will say, if the solar farm is no longer operational, then we would have to decommission it. So that's what we mean by sort of time limited development.
Great, thank you. And there was a question from Jules about what an investor would get for their return.
I will, yeah, thanks. So on that, so I think the question assumes that, if I'm not mistaken, that those investing will be getting a certain amount of electricity in return, which it wouldn't, whilst we haven't worked out the details fully yet, it would actually be a financial return rather than a return by way of electricity. But Jules, I don't know if I've assumed that wrong.
I think maybe from a community investment point of view, or that we haven't worked all this out, but often when you invest in a community energy project, it's usually around 5 or 6% return on your investment.
Yeah, and we see something similar by way of general returns on this project. So yeah, that's round about where it is.
Sorry, can I just add on to Shireen's point earlier on the question about the time limited development? We do anticipate after the lifespan of the solar farm coming to an end around 40 years time, the land then that is returned back to its former agricultural use. So that's the original use is only on pause for a temporary amount of time.
Can I just follow up on that? Because sorry, I'm the person that asked the question. What I'm really interested in is if I love the idea of this and I love the concept of it. It actually concerns me it's only for 40 years. So is that part of the machinery that's the issue? It doesn't last longer than 40 years?
Yeah, but that in itself actually wouldn't stop us from repowering. So the way it could work is, it could be over time we have to replace certain components, but in theory, the grid connection goes on in perpetuity. And what I imagine will happen is all a little bit speculative at this point, because renewable energy has been, the solar farms that we manage have been around for maybe 15 years max, that sort of time period. So it's hard to say what will happen, but what I can imagine is that there will be a bit of dependency on these projects by the grid. So I think at the point at which we're looking at them and reassessing them in 25, 30 years time, it would make a lot of sense to have a look at the situation then and say, well, actually, do we want to repower? At which point we'd have to go again to the local planning authority and go for planning permission again. But I can really see that there's a lot of potential for that happening. And I think it would be a shame not to, personally. Having said that, of course, there are a lot of benefits to the land afterwards. land would have had decades to, I don't know, for the topsoil to regenerate, for example. So again, you could say, well, it kind of also makes sense to potentially take it back into farming. But I think there will be potential for either route later down the line.
So one might say then that the solar farm, or this particular solar farm, is assisting in getting to that energy, fossil fuel energy by 2050, but might not necessarily last the course after that.
I think if the will was there, it would be possible to repower, no problem, because the technology is actually only improving. So you could potentially also repower, but using less land, because what we find is that, you know, solar panels of the same size are actually creating more and more energy, more and more capacity. So I think that would probably make a lot of sense at that point, to reassess and look at it and say, you know, let's maintain the capacity, but actually use less land to do so, using the updated technology at that point.
That's marvelous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Could I ask another question, please?
Yes.
That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I was going to say, firstly, overall, thank you ever so much for everyone taking the time, because I find it very laudable that you're, I find it a very laudable project, and I find it very laudable that, you know, you're taking the time to explain it. So that's great. One thing I noticed was that the planning timeline was, I think, saying 2027 or 2028 for actual start of construction. I was just wondering, maybe kind of like an unobvious question, but kind of like, why the delay? Why does it take from planning, permission being granted, you know, 2 to 3 years to actually starting implementation? It seems a shame.
Yeah, we agree. That's down to the grid connection date. So a lot of projects like Caker Stream are seeing very late connection dates being offered, because grid reinforcements are required, just to get through this energy transition and have so much more embedded renewable generation on the grid. Does mean, you know, the grid needs to do certain large reinforcement projects. So that's delay is really due to connection date. So that's the earliest we can connect. And if we could do so sooner, then we would definitely be keen.
Okay, that's great. Thanks.
But
Thanks for
it's not
clarifying.
looking likely. No
Okay,
problem.
no thanks. Maybe just one other thing as well, to kind of be a positive advocate, like I think someone else said. Are you intending sharing the slides to the people who have joined the call this evening? May I ask, or will it be posted somewhere?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. Is
Okay, great. Thanks.
okay with everyone? Yeah.
Yeah, I think
that's
just to sort of respond there, Chris, as well. I'm not sure whether you're aware, there is a website. So a lot of the information relating to the project is on the project website. So I can share that now in the chat if you weren't aware of that.
Oh, that's great. Thanks. That's perfect.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions from people?
Yes, Kat, if I could just make a comment. I think
Yes.
one of the team's going to post the feedback form on the chat.
Oh, yeah, lovely. Yeah, we've got a feedback form. If you're able to fill that in to give us some feedback, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I'm just going to post the link to the feedback form so everyone can download that and fill it up whenever they have a moment.
But, you know, any other questions, please get in touch. We welcome questions and ideas and feedback. So, yeah, please get in touch with any of the partners involved.
Just to I suppose continue the conversation. So the whole sort of point of these consultation events is to gather feedback and understand what you might want to see improved as a member of the community. So by the time we submit the planning application in April, we've taken on board that feedback and we've made any changes where possible. That's not to say once we actually submit the planning application, there's not an opportunity to make further comments. So The application will be publicised by the council, local planning authority, and then there will be a consultation period within which stakeholders, members of the community can submit representations to the council. So there is further opportunities for engagement, but I think as far as we're concerned, if you do have any feedback at this stage, it's better for us because we can then look to incorporate that feedback into the design, for example.
Okay, well, that brings us to the end of this presentation. We're actually here until 9 o'clock this evening to give a window for other people to join. But you're obviously free to go if you've got no other questions. And thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Yeah, I was just going to say thanks ever so much for organising the session. That was really good. It was really informative. So thanks for that.
Thanks for joining and for your questions, Chris.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.